This is Margin Machine, where we follow the money behind AI. A company that sells a body scan for roughly $300 just raised $700 million, and Mark Zuckerberg personally wrote a check. The founder? Daniel Ek. The same guy who built Spotify. His new company, Neko Health, is now valued at nearly $7 billion, and here's the number that should stop you cold: that valuation quadrupled in about 18 months. Not for a drug. Not for a hospital chain. For a walk-in clinic where lasers and sensors scan your body while you stand there in your underwear. Investors are treating a doctor's checkup like it's a software subscription, and once you see the unit economics, you'll understand why. But buried inside this deal is a detail almost nobody is talking about, one that could make this either the smartest healthcare bet of the decade or its most expensive mistake. Stick around, because we're following every dollar. Let's rewind. Daniel Ek is best known for one thing: turning the music industry upside down with Spotify. But back in 2018, while Spotify was still fighting for profitability, Ek quietly co-founded a second company with an engineer named Jalmar Nilsson. The premise was almost naive in its simplicity: healthcare waits until you're sick, then charges you a fortune to fix you. What if you flipped that? What if you scanned healthy people every year and caught problems before they became catastrophes? For years, Neko Health operated in near total silence in Stockholm. No press tours, no hype cycle. They spent that time building proprietary scanning hardware, a booth packed with dozens of sensors and lasers that collects millions of data points about your skin, your heart, your blood vessels, in a matter of minutes. When they finally opened their first clinic in Stockholm in 2023, something strange happened. The appointment slots didn't just fill, they vanished. And that scarcity, as we'll see, became the engine of the entire business. So what does a Neko scan actually look like? You walk into a clinic that feels more like an Apple store than a hospital. You step into the scanning booth, sensors sweep your entire body, they draw blood, check your heart, your grip strength, your blood pressure. Then, and this is the part customers rave about, a doctor sits with you, unhurried, and walks through your results on a giant screen, in plain language. The whole experience takes about an hour, and it costs somewhere in the range of $250 to $300 depending on the market. Now, on paper, that sounds like a terrible business. Custom hardware. Physical clinics. Salaried doctors. Real estate. Every one of those things is expensive, and none of them scale like software. Venture capitalists are supposed to run screaming from businesses like this. Instead, they just handed X $700 million. Why? Because hiding inside that 1-hour appointment is a metric that most software companies would kill for. Here's the number that reportedly sold this round: 75% of Neko's members book and prepay for their next annual scan before they even leave their first appointment. Read that again. 3 out of 4 customers hand over money for a product they won't receive for 12 months, voluntarily, on the spot. That's not a healthcare metric. That's a retention curve that looks like Netflix in its golden years. And it transforms the entire financial picture. Suddenly this isn't a clinic selling one-off checkups, it's a subscription business with hardware as the acquisition funnel. Recurring revenue, predictable demand, cash collected up front. Add the demand side: over 100,000 people have already been scanned, and more than 350,000 have joined the waitlist or booked appointments. Neko doesn't spend money finding customers, customers queue up for the privilege of paying. Think about what that does to the spreadsheet. The average software startup spends hundreds of dollars in ads to acquire a single paying user, then prays that user sticks around long enough to break even. Neko flips the equation: the customer pays first, pays again before leaving, and then does the marketing for free, because a body scan is exactly the kind of thing people can't stop telling their friends about. In an era where AI startups burn fortunes on customer acquisition, Neko built the one thing money can't easily buy: a line out the door. But here's the part nobody mentions in the celebration threads. A significant chunk of the medical establishment thinks whole-body screening of healthy people is a bad idea. Their argument: scan enough healthy bodies and you'll find harmless anomalies everywhere, shadows, cysts, quirks that would never have caused problems. Each one can trigger follow-up tests, biopsies, anxiety, and real costs, chasing conditions that never needed treatment. Doctors call these incidental findings, and several national health bodies have historically declined to recommend routine full-body screening for exactly this reason. Neko's counterargument is that its model is different: physician-led consultations, longitudinal data, tracking your body against your own baseline year after year rather than firing off one-time alarms. And they point to cases where scans caught genuinely serious conditions early. Who's right? The honest answer is that the long-term data isn't settled yet. Which means investors just paid a valuation near $7 billion for a company whose core medical premise is still being debated. That's not necessarily wrong. Spotify was obviously doomed once too, but it's the risk hiding under the confetti. Now let's follow the money on this round, because the cap table reads like a party guest list. The $700 million Series C was led by Lightspeed Venture Partners and OG Venture Partners. Reports say the backers include Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan, Tim Ferriss, Maria Sharapova, and will.i.am. 18 months earlier, in January 2025, Neko raised $260 million at around $1.7 billion. Now the valuation sits near $7 billion, roughly a fourfold jump. What are they buying with all that cash? America. Neko currently operates in Sweden and the UK, and the war chest funds its first US location in New York, plus manufacturing more of those scanning booths, which remain the physical bottleneck on growth. The US is the biggest healthcare market on the planet, full of consumers already primed by wearables and longevity influencers to pay out of pocket for health data. And notice the timing: this round landed in the same month global startup funding hit a record $510 billion for the first half of 2026, with investors explicitly hunting for AI that touches the physical world, not another chatbot, but sensors, hardware, and real-world data no competitor can scrape. Neko checks every one of those boxes. If the prepay behavior holds in New York like it did in Stockholm, the math gets very interesting, very fast. So what's the actual lesson for anyone watching this channel to understand where the money flows? It's this: the most valuable trick in modern business is taking something people buy reluctantly and turning it into something they subscribe to eagerly. Ek did it once with music: people who refused to pay for albums happily paid monthly for access. Now he's running the same play on the checkup. The AI does the scanning and pattern detection, the doctor delivers the human trust, and the prepaid annual visit turns your own body into a recurring revenue stream. Whether the medical debate resolves in Neko's favor or not, venture capital has clearly decided that preventive health is the next subscription frontier, and that the founder who rewired how 1 billion people pay for music might rewire how they pay to stay alive. Here's what makes this story bigger than one company: Neko is reportedly just one piece of X's plan, and the race to own your health data is pulling in tech giants from every direction. If you want to keep following the money behind AI before the headlines catch up, subscribe. It takes 1 second and it genuinely helps the channel. But there's one question this deal doesn't answer: what happens to the price of staying healthy when an AI company knows more about your body than you do, and starts charging accordingly? If you want to know the answer to that, click the video on your screen right now.